Bristol has found a new battlefield. Not housing, not transport, not crime. Lampposts. Yes, actual lampposts wearing flags like they've just joined a national pageant. And somehow, this has turned into a full blown cultural debate because nothing says modern Britain like arguing over fabric attached to street furniture. The situation. Bristol Live readers have been doing what Bristol Live readers do best, having very strong opinions about something that should, in theory, be very simple. There are flags on lampposts, Union Jacks, visible, repeated, intentional, and the reactions split sharply. The two camps. On one side, it's nice, it's pride, it's Britain. On the other, it's unnecessary, it's political. It makes people uncomfortable. And in between, people just trying to walk to Tesco without accidentally entering a cultural debate every time they look up. Let's get this straight. Here's the thing people keep dancing around instead of saying directly. A flag is not just a flag, it's a symbol, and symbols carry baggage, history, identity, interpretation, sometimes pride, sometimes pain, sometimes both at the same time. Let me say this clearly. I've said it plainly before. I'm British, born and raised. I have a British flag in my living room. And when I see those flags on lampposts, my reaction is simple. This is England. Of course, there are English flags. No fear, no discomfort, no internal debate, just recognition. The clash isn't about fabric. This is where people get it wrong. They think the argument is about flags. It's not. It's about meaning. Because two people can look at the exact same symbol and see completely different things. Perspective 1. Pride. For some people, the flag represents home, history, belonging, something stable, something that says, this is where I'm from. And for them, seeing it on lampposts is not political. It's normal, expected, almost invisible in its familiarity. Perspective 2. Suspicion. For others, the flag doesn't land the same way. It carries associations, sometimes with nationalism, exclusion, past experiences. So when they see it repeated across a city, it doesn't feel neutral, it feels loaded. The core tension. This is the tension Britain keeps circling. Can something represent pride without being read as exclusion? Because intention and interpretation are not the same thing. My point about Jamaica. Let me say this properly. If I go to Jamaica, I see Jamaican flags everywhere, on buildings, on streets, on official spaces, and nobody is calling that racist. Nobody is questioning it. Nobody is analyzing it like it's some kind of coded message. It's just understood. This is Jamaica. Of course, there are Jamaican flags. And that's where I get frustrated because I look at Britain and think, why is this suddenly different here? Why is it that in other countries displaying your national flag is normal, but here it becomes a debate, a problem, a statement people feel the need to decode? The double standard. That's what gets me. It feels like a double standard, like there's one rule for every other country and a completely different one for Britain. And I'm not buying that. How I see it, when I see the British flag, I don't feel attacked. I don't feel excluded. I don't feel like someone is sending me a message about not belonging. I'm black. I was born here. I was raised here. This is my country. So when I see that flag, I don't see hostility. I see home. And I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only person who feels like this. There are a lot of people quietly thinking the same thing. Why are we overcomplicating something that should be simple? Why are we acting like national pride is only acceptable everywhere else? That's the real issue. For me, it's not about the flag itself, it's about how differently it's treated depending on where you are. And that inconsistency, that's what people are reacting to. Where this actually leads, and here's where I push it a bit further, because this isn't just a quick frustration that disappears after a rant. This is something I notice again and again. It's like there's a discomfort around British identity that doesn't exist in the same way elsewhere. People are cautious about it, careful with it, sometimes even apologetic about it. And I don't relate to that. The weird energy around Britishness. There's this strange energy where being openly proud of being British gets treated like it needs a disclaimer. Like you have to say, I'm proud, but not in that way. I'm proud, but I don't mean anything political. I'm proud, but please don't misunderstand me. And I'm looking at that thinking, why? Why does something as basic as national identity feel like it needs to be softened, explained, or diluted? I don't carry that fear. I'm not second guessing myself every time I say I'm proud to be British. I'm not scanning the room to check how people are going to react. Because for me, it's not complicated. This is where I'm from. That's it. The overthinking problem. What I see happening is overthinking on a massive scale. People are taking something simple and layering it with so much meaning that it stops being what it actually is. A flag becomes a political signal, a historical argument, a cultural statement, instead of just being a flag. But let's be real for a second. I'm not naive. I understand that symbols can be used in different ways. I understand that some people have had negative experiences tied to those symbols. I'm not ignoring that. But at the same time, I'm not going to let that define my relationship with it. Because if we let every symbol be permanently controlled by its worst interpretation, then nothing neutral survives. Ownership matters. This is the part people don't talk about enough. Who gets to own a symbol? Who decides what it represents? Because if only the loudest or most extreme voices define it, then everyone else gets pushed out of something that belongs to them too. And I'm not giving that up. I'm not outsourcing my identity. I'm not outsourcing my identity to other people's interpretations. I'm not letting someone else tell me what it means to see a British flag. I've lived here. I've grown up here. I've built my life here. That flag represents me too. End of discussion. The quiet majority. And here's something I think is important. A lot of people feel like this, but they don't say it. They keep it quiet because the conversation gets tense quickly, because nobody wants to be misread. Because once certain labels get thrown around, the nuance disappears. But silence doesn't solve it. The problem is, when people stay silent, the conversation becomes dominated by extremes. One side shouting, it's all pride, no problem. The other shouting, it's all negative, no nuance. And the middle ground disappears. I'm sitting in that middle ground. That's where I am. I'm not pretending there's no history, but I'm also not accepting that the present has to be defined entirely by it. There has to be space for a normal, grounded relationship with national identity without turning it into a battlefield every time it shows up. What I actually want. I'm not asking for anything extreme. I'm not asking for everyone to suddenly love the flag. I'm not asking for agreement. I'm asking for balance, for the ability to exist in a space where seeing a British flag doesn't automatically trigger suspicion and expressing pride doesn't automatically trigger debate. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about winning an argument, it's about normalizing something that should already be normal. A person seeing the flag of their own country and feeling completely at ease with it. No explanation needed, no apology required, no overanalysis, just recognition. And until that becomes simple again, this conversation is going to keep looping over and over on lampposts, on social media, in comment sections. Because the real issue isn't the flag, it's the meaning people keep attaching to it. And right now, that meaning still isn't settled.